Hello and welcome back once again to the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. This is episode 217. John and Wendy talk to Terry Milford. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Wendy. How are you, John?
Wendy, I'm well. We are well into April. And it's that time again. We have a chat this weekend.
You know, we've talked about it before, but the 2 chats a month sometimes still takes me by surprise that, we've got another chat this month.
You had a great idea. In the last conversation, we talked about HR shenanigans and maybe some of the fun stuff that comes out of that with our friends over at Hostile Work Environment. We're going to take that and move into something that's maybe not so much fun sometime, and that is talking about bad news, difficult news, having those difficult conversations that we have to have sometime in our work.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what part of HR you work in. We all have to have some sort of difficult conversation. Even in TA, we have to, you have to tell somebody they didn't get the job. But I think we're going to have some fun with it too. So it won't all be serious, but because we've all had that feedback that maybe didn't go so well, those awesome responses that we get from candidates who have been rejected that sometimes don't make any sense. So we'll keep it a little bit light too, but I think it's important for us to talk about how you give bad news and how not to give bad news. I think that's probably even more important than how to give it, making sure you're not giving it in the wrong way.
It's really funny you say that. I was just having that conversation this weekend with a peer. We were talking about my experience going on 9 years ago now when I got laid off from the big company that I worked for at the time. I was delivered the news and basically told, hey, go away. You don't get a victory lap. You don't get to say goodbye. Just literally get your box and leave. At least I got mine in person because one of my peers got a phone call.
Ooh.
I'll never forget one of the very high ups in one of the other areas said to one of my peers who was leading HR for that person's area, what the where are we that we're doing? Right. It was embarrassing. It was highly embarrassing. Yeah, that was a bad or not so fun conversation that particularly went sideways because they called him. So if any of you are doing that, you're going to get called to task on it because that's wrong. Please don't do that.
We are.
Now
It's remote.
Yeah, that's true.
So
if you are in person, though, if you have the opportunity to do it in person, do it in person.
Exactly. If you have the opportunity to do it in person, and please don't. We've all seen that story of the company that I can't remember which one it was, but they did the mass layoffs via a Zoom call. Yeah, don't do that either. Every person deserves an individual conversation. I think we can all agree with that. Wow.
More to come on that this weekend.
Yes.
If you're listening in real time,
please join us.
Join us Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you cannot join us and still want to answer, we always appreciate that. However, make sure that you use the HR Social Hour hashtag. Because if you if you reply to me and it just is a response with no hashtag, I don't do anything with it. We don't track it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you making commentary, but I don't track it. I don't follow it. And it's just out in the ether or in the Twitter, I guess. Yeah. Is it the Twitterverse?
The Twitterverse, yeah. Because, the thing about it is not everyone's going to see that. So when you use a hashtag, that everyone sees it because they're following the hashtag. That way I will see it when I pull it for our recap. Because it doesn't matter who you respond to, if there's no hashtag, it doesn't come into the recap.
We look forward to everyone joining us then. And speaking of people joining us, I'm extremely excited to have Terry with us, our latest international guest, which is super awesome.
Yay!
Another good friend to the great white north of us. Let's make the introduction, Wendy, and get started.
Super excited to welcome Terry Milford to the show. Terry is a dynamic senior human resources leader with over 20 years of experience in operational HR. From corporate culture to family-owned businesses, she has worked in a variety of sectors, including manufacturing, the food industry, insurance, and now senior living, as Director of People Development. Terry was a global HR leader when she took a leap in 2017 to go back to school and earn her master's degree in leadership, along with an adult education certification. Her passion is supporting the growth and development of others to reach their full potential through commitment to a culture of learning, authentic relationships, and true servant leadership. Her beliefs are founded in that real success is impossible unless you treat people with kindness, regard, and respect. Well, Terry, welcome to the show. Again, so excited to have you here. first question, what is in your glass?
I love your question. Always on the Twitter chat too. So I have water because I don't want to get dry and start coughing during this great conversation. And I have a diet lemonade with a splash of spirits.
Just a splash.
Yes.
We thought maybe it was water because Terry was kind enough to let us know that she's recovering from an illness.
Yeah.
Wishing her all the best. And we're glad that you were able to be here and to join us. And no one's ever going to know.
Thank you.
Terry, I have to ask, how in the world did you get your start in human resources?
Oh boy, I've listened to some of your fantastic podcasts, and I'm always fascinated, even when I meet new people, about their journeys, right? People development, that's so fascinating. So for me, right out of university and actually a summer job, I worked at Whirlpool Corporation, which is, of course, in Benton Harbor, Michigan, head office, but really a big global company. Had a Canadian office headquartered in nearby where I live. So great summer job. Came back after I graduated. Didn't know what I was doing. And here we are, right? A job comes up. I was in customer service, as you do when you first come out of university sometimes, in human resources. And I didn't know anything about it. But what the heck? I applied, and the rest is history. And I did my growing up at Whirlpool and worked generalist roles, was a compensation specialist, and really moved into a manager position there. Was there about 14 years. And it's funny how life is. You're learning as you're going, but you don't appreciate it at the time. I touched every piece of HR in my journey there, and think back about all the opportunities that leaders gave me for growth and development that, at the time you're just kind of learning, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do that today? Like, where do I start? Because you're so new. I mean, I did, everything from facilities development to benefits to, like, you name it, I touched it, and it was fantastic. And then I took a pause and with my family and went back to, move on to other leadership roles within HR.
Terry, you've done a lot of different industries. And, there's some back and forth on whether you should, stick with one industry, if you should work in, the multiple industries type of thing. So, you've made those moves. So how different is HR from industry to industry in your experience? And how have you dealt with some of those adjustments in the changes between industries?
It's kind of terrifying, right? When you've worked in the same industry, same sector for, a long period of time, and then all of a sudden you jump in elsewhere, and you're like, like anybody does. There's so many folks doing that right now, or are just jumping ship and changing careers and being brave. So I would say that, surprisingly, things are the same. In even having moved into senior living most recently, I thought, geez, that's the biggest jump I've made. And it all still the same. It's about, again, back to what I believe in, treating people with respect and regard. And you think about things as simple as, how you treat a person day in and day out, as a leader, as a coworker. Those are the things that are going to matter when it comes down to things like employee relations or negotiating union contracts, whatever the case may be. It really comes down to those same premises, and employment law and all that applies across the board. So surprisingly, it wasn't as a big of a leap as you think it'd be. And I'd say to everyone, just be brave. Follow where you think you're going to go on your learning journey, and just get out there.
Terry, with the retirement community and with the industry that you're in now, we had a chance to visit a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the fact that your organization has announced a rather substantial growth model in the next several years. And I remarked at the time, are there even enough people in your area to address it? Talk to some of those people challenges that you're anticipating, and how are you working with your team to prepare for that?
You think about that substantial growth, certainly in our industry. We're going to talk about it, pre-pandemic. Doesn't matter where you were in the world, certainly in the U.S. and Canada, senior living, always understaffed, and all the challenges that came with that. And those things are still there. A lot of government support is there now, but at the end of the day, it comes back to good culture, retention, all of the things that are super important in keeping good people. That's the focus. And really specifically in my role around people development is giving people an opportunity to grow. Our goal is to have 8 out of 10 leaders promoted from within. And how do you do that? You develop folks, you invest in them, and that's how you engage them, right, on a day-to-day basis. So that's some of the pieces that I'm part of. Of course, a fantastic group, a talent team like yourselves is involved in that as well. And we all work as a team to make sure we've got the engaged, retain, and developed team to support that kind of growth. But we're getting creative for sure. And I think a lot of folks are looking at international recruitment and supporting that growth. You think about, there's so many folks that are in our own organization that are internationally educated and trained professionals. And how do we help them get their credentials in our country and support them to grow and develop? So lots of nurses, for example, that we're really trying to invest in as well.
That is definitely a healthcare challenge. I'm seeing it as well. We could probably have a long conversation on recruiting for healthcare related field. It's not just nurses either. We're seeing all sorts of different allied health and non-patient facing areas that we're starting to talk about international recruitment for, just because there's not enough folks locally.
When we're talking about retirement communities and the aging demographic, we just know there are fewer people coming up behind. Mm-hmm. We know other countries have been struggling for years with not enough people to take care of those ahead of them. And it's a rather amazing proposition to say, we're going to grow, we're going to build, because there is a need and an interest in enough opportunity there. It's mind-boggling to me. I'll be blunt. Just as outside looking in, just thinking about it. Kudos to you for having that philosophy of developing that much leadership internally. That is an incredible goal. I'm sure it's very helpful in keeping folks and in engaging them and getting them interested in being there.
Absolutely. And it is a family owned organization, and it really goes back to those values and the culture in believing in each other. And that's what makes a difference. That's what makes a difference in any organization, right? And the 7 out of 10 leaders that currently have been promoted from within. So it's not overreaching to have that goal, but certainly in these current times and thinking about the challenges, like you said, Wendy, it's incredible.
Yeah. Well, kudos for so much internal promotion. I think that's fantastic. And that's a way to make sure, recognize if people can see that opportunity for growth, I think they're more likely to come in and hang around, because that's key. Get them, right now it's hard to get them in, but you also have to keep them. You can't have a funnel on the other side.
No, you're right.
Terry, we have gotten to know you on Twitter through our chats and that fun stuff. So tell us, how did you first discover the HR Social Hour, and what's been your biggest takeaway from being a part, and why do you keep coming back?
Well, it's you guys, of course. It's an interesting story. Your friend, our friend, Dr. Melanie Peacock, she's actually, it was through my cousin who knows Melanie through her own network. Through Twitter, I started to see her, popping up, loved some of her posts. And then she was, of course, promoting the Social Hour. And one day I was just following it and I thought, geez, why not? Let's just jump in. And what a beautiful thing. I'm so grateful for it, especially during these last 2 years when we haven't had the opportunity to network in the same way, going to local events or whatever that might be for everybody, conferences, all that fun stuff. It was just kind of a gift, I guess, that kind of arrived for me around the time that COVID started. And I guess maybe that's when, we all started looking a little closer at our phones. I don't know, or a little bit closer online. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to see the bigger picture. Like you introduced me as international. I never think that way when I think about U.S. and Canada, but I guess I am. And it's great to see all the other folks that you have drawn in as well and learn from each other, because it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about between moving sectors. It's really, HR is universal, right? There's always going to be differences in employment law or regional differences, but at the end of the day, we're all there to serve the folks that are in our organizations, and I think we all can draw from each other's experiences in the same way. Did I answer all the question?
I think you did.
Absolutely. And Terry, for the record, you are international.
Yeah, I know. Yep. That's cool.
Yeah.
Having listened, you know that we have started crowdsourcing some of our questions out to lighten our load. And in this case, Katie Van Horn asked, what are you doing personally to drive DEI initiatives in your organization?
And, it's interesting. I listened to her podcast and I listened to her question when she posed it. I thought, I wonder if I'm going to get that question. So good for Katie. And I really did enjoy that. I would say that, when I think about that question, I think about back, I'm aging myself now, 25 years ago, working at a big corporate or global organization. And we really were focused. We did an external audit on, where are our gaps? And I remember being a young person and my leader investing in me and saying, hey, I want you to help support some of this, diversity, that we need to build in our organization. And one of the things she did was she put me in charge of what we called the WOW group. It sounds crazy, but it was the Women of Whirlpool. And as a young lady, thinking about, there wasn't very many women sitting at the boardroom table at that time. So we put a lot of effort and initiative into it. And we changed it. Within a couple of years, there was double the women at the executive level. And there was a lot of great things that happened. I can't personally hang my hat on all those things, but I was a small part of it. And so I think about it today, what are we doing as an organization, as an individuals? We all need to have our own part of it. And sometimes you don't think you're moving the needle, but just by talking about it, we raise awareness, right? So in our organization, really, we have it's a culture change initiative that's been in place for about 10 years. And specific to that is supporting one of our aspirations in our organization. And really that's honoring diversity in village life. So you think about it, our workplace is not our workplace. It's the home of our residents. In order to support diversity, we need to support them and making them feel inclusion in their own spirituality. There's, culture diversity, individual diversity. And so our purpose is really embraced as just as I am, whether it's a resident, a team member, a leader, a family member. And that's really what we embrace every day. So it's just supporting those groups. And we have advisory groups within each of our villages that really support everything should go through that lens of, are we living up to that aspiration? Are we embracing everyone just as they are?
Oh, I love that. Well, Katie, it is now time.
Who's Katie?
Sorry, Katie. Wow.
Katie was so great. I know,
I went
right?
Back to, for some reason.
I can't live up to
Katie,
her.
Yeah. Wow.
What's in your glass, Wendy?
Nothing tonight. Oh, goodness.
You guys are great.
Well, Terry, it is now time for everyone's favorite part of our show, the half-hour question connection. What career did you dream of having when you were a child?
Oh, I am a numbers girl. I wanted to be an accountant. My university degree is in economics. I was going to rule the world with numbers. And then I got this HR gig. And I think when I was younger, that compensation role that I had really kind of filled that bucket for me, and really looking at the business side of things, which often, I'm not, putting a blanket statement in there, but typically that's not a background of someone in HR, is to come from that. And so I found it's been useful to understand more of the business. But yeah, I'm a numbers girl. It's kind of funny.
Terry, were they teaching the guns and butter economic model when you were studying economics?
Oh, probably. Yes, I am that old.
I was a music major and I took macro and micro both. And I just
they say that.
Yeah. So I was just curious because that was a long time ago too. People look at me like I'm crazy when I ask that question, but Figured I'd ask. Who's one person you gained in your network in the last year that you think more people should know?
I'm going to go back to Dr. Melanie Peacock. I don't know, everything I see about her, touch, but I've never met her, right, in person. That's somebody I want to get to know better. And certainly she's an inspiration as I follow her and on every platform, actually. And certainly you guys as well.
Well, we would concur. She's our favorite Canadian. So
you're quickly becoming
wonderful.
1B, Terry.
Yes, for sure. Terry, if you could go back to the start of your career, what's one piece of advice you would give yourself based on what you know now?
I think we'd all whisper the same thing to ourselves as young people, is to say, don't stress out about everything, right? Big, small stuff, whatever it was, and then stop and enjoy it. Because I think I referenced earlier in our conversation is that, my leader was giving me so many great opportunities to learn and grow. And instead in that moment, you're like, oh my God, not another thing to do, when really it was fantastic, right? And I think as we get longer in our careers, we start to approach things in a different light and as a learning opportunity, and that culture of learning that I think is so important to get you up every day and smiling.
Terry, how do you enjoy giving back to the HR community or community at large?
For me, it was a lot. My son is cerebral palsy, and I spent a lot of years supporting sledge hockey or para hockey. That was really important to me. If you have never seen it, to watch it, to see kids, throw away their wheelchair, their leg, their crutches, and just get on the ice and play hockey. It is the most incredible feeling in the world to watch the smiles on their faces. So I would suggest that that's my biggest giving back. And I think, as I've moved on through my career, is mentoring others, right? I think about all the folks that have been on my large teams throughout my career, coming back to me for advice, and being able to support others on their journey. And I wish I had more of that myself, right? So I think that's where I'm at right now as far as giving back.
Terry, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, Grease is the word. No, I've really dated myself. My girlfriend and I, everything goes back to what were you doing in that moment and who did you see the movie with? And for me, that, those are fantastic memories. And I don't know how many silly dances as young ladies we made up to those silly songs. And it just puts a smile on my face, even just to see, a picture from that movie or from the album. It's just one of those things. Grease is always the word.
Now, how do you feel about Grease 2?
No. I know. I did see it, and I've tried it more than once, but, it's like anything, right? It's the magic of the first time, right?
What's your favorite or your most memorable live performance you've ever attended? My
high school friends and I often go to see many concerts, but we've seen Pink a number of times. And I'm going to say it was about 4 years ago. It was my girlfriend's birthday, and we had somehow got comped up to the second row.
Whoa.
Honestly.
Nice.
She is an incredible talent. I mean, she's a talented performer she does these acrobats and all kinds of things in her show, and it's just incredible to watch. And that'll always be my biggest moment, I guess.
So Terry, if you could be on any TV show, either as a character or as yourself, what would it be?
Okay, this one I've got. I could tell you, my friends would say it would be a Terry story if I went into too many details, but Outlander is a show, and it's. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You sounded so serious, John. I'm sorry to me.
No. And, my wife watches it. That's my familiarity with it.
So the early 90s, when Diana Gabaldon first started, first published the first book, I read the books then with my sister who had passed away a number of years ago. And so we went on this journey in the mid 90s to Scotland, and we were going to go back in time. just like Claire does in the book and the movies and on the show. So, traveled to Scotland and, borrowed a friend's video camera, and we were going to send our husbands back a tape that they can look for us in the history books in 200 years. So, I'm not sure how I feel about living in the 1700s, but gosh, would I love to be part of that story. I don't think I'd want to be the main character because she's like a surgeon and a doctor. So that part's not exciting to me, but just to go back in time, I don't know, there's something about it, the history of it all. So that's what I would do. I'm not sure how I'd feel about the women's attire, but I'd like to try it out.
Terry, I think it's safe to say that you're the first person we've had on that read a book for a movie or a TV show or anything, read it and did something before the TV show or movie was created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You were thinking about this long before it was ever a TV show. That fascinates me.
Well, what's interesting is that now, there's all, I'm sure you guys see it everywhere. There's all these Outlander tours. You can go to Scotland and, go to some of the locations and all that. And I think, but I was there first. I even went to, where the Battle of Culloden was fought. And my husband jokes because I got him into the show and he got make him watch it with me. And he's like, well, we could go to Scotland. I said, it's not the same because, we would just be following the herd, right? So, I'm pretty passionate about it. I see Diana Gabaldon, the author, comes here to Canada to the Fergus Highland Games every 2 years under normal circumstances, and certainly always make sure I stop to see her.
Well, recently it was announced it's going to be Terry Milford Day all around the world. What are we going to do to celebrate?
This is a good one. Well, my dream, perfect day in the world would be to be with a good book, a nice cold beverage, maybe on a sunny day under an umbrella and just relaxing. And then I always say my favorite meal would be king crab legs, oysters, Rockefeller, and dry martini with 4 olives. So everybody all around, seafood feast, and dance the night away.
You have really thought this through.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
The perfect day, right?
Well, finally, Terry, as you know, we are outsourcing. So if you could ask the next guest of the podcast any question, what would it be?
Wow. I know. This is the tough one. I think about you guys when we first started this conversation. I was listening to you talk about our, I say our, it's not mine, but the Twitter chat is around difficult conversations. And I think I might have asked you guys this once in one of the, so when you guys solicited questions, what is their best game that they bring to work through a difficult conversation?
Oh,
I'm always fascinated by that.
Terry, it is now in the book. It will be asked very soon, and maybe that person will have been part of the chat and had a chance to think a bit about it before they get the question. I can't thank you enough for doing this. Really glad you're getting over what you've had, and wow, just great conversation. And again, you're international whether you like it or not, and we always appreciate that. I know many of our listeners are connected with you already. If they're not, best way for them to reach you out there.
Yeah, I'm Terry with a Y. I want to make sure that everybody understands that. Terry with a Y Milford. And, you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Happy to chat anytime and connect or DM me. It is actually Teresa, but please don't call me that. And I love connecting and networking with everyone. And I just want to say thank you both for the opportunity, not only to have this wonderful conversation today, but really about the work you're doing and how much it's meant to me to connect with others through the HR Social Hour.
Thank you. We will have all that in the show notes other than that other name. Wendy, how about you? Best way for listeners to reach you out there?
Best way is on my blog, mydailyjourney.com. And of course, the second and fourth Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, you will find me on Twitter as part of our twice monthly Twitter chat. How about you, John?
JohnThurman.com for all things John Thurman, and for the show, HR Social Hour Podcast.podbean.com. Listen, review, share, follow. If you leave us a review, I still have a handful of coasters and bottle openers and some things from our spring cleaning that are available. So Reach out, share that review with us, and I will send something your way. International listeners, we have another international guest, so we want you to be part of the conversation as well. I think Terry will tell you it's fairly painless. We'd love to have conversations about whatever industry you're in, doing whatever HR you do. we'd love to talk about it. So reach out and let's start that conversation.
Yes.
Terry, again, appreciate you being with us. And so for the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast, I'm John.
And I'm Wendy. And as always, be sure to connect,
give back, and network. Take care, everybody.
We'll see you soon.